All right, welcome to the All Pro Podcast. This is our fourth installment, and we have a very special guest with us tonight. Go ahead and introduce yourself, or you would like me to do it.
I'm Big Game James _36 from Twitter, former Florida State fullback, New Orleans Saint. Just happy to be here, guy. Overall,
Thank you for joining us, bro. Man, we are honored. We are completely honored. So, James, what's going on, bro?
nothing much, man. Just being a dad, covering sports. I have my YouTube channel is Den Media Group. We do a lot of stuff. We have Big Games BS. We have Drive to Selection. With the Tech Slayer Gator Bowl, where we
Okay,
predict college football bowl matchups, and we talk
okay,
about the week in college football. We have Trey's Take. My son has this. We have a bunch of different original programming that we're going to start that we put on the channel, and we just really just get out there and try to have a good time doing our thing.
that sounds good, man. So you got your sons involved with this
Oh yeah,
now.
my oldest son Trey, he said that this is what he wants to do, and I have the opportunity to be able to do it for him and the platform. So I want to just be able to give. Everybody talks about generational wealth and setting their kids up and doing all these different things, and it really sounds good and it's very good talking points. But very few people actually actively do those things, and so like everything that I have the opportunity to do, I try to actively give my sons the opportunity.
That's amazing, bro. That's amazing. We need more dads like you. So let's jump right into it, man. I was trying to find your total touchdowns. It looks like you had 10 there. So looks like you had about 10 there. Let me ask you, do you think you had enough touches when you were there? I mean, obviously, if you weren't Edgar Bennett or William Floyd or Lonnie Pryor or an athletic fullback, but to me, I think you were athletic enough. Uh, or were you just content of just being the being the blocker, being the bulldozer?
Well, I mean, when I came to Florida State, I was a linebacker and I converted over to fullback.
Is that
So
right?
yeah, I never had any intentions of I didn't really know how it was gonna go. So my first year, we did that. Then I realized my second year I started getting the ball in the short yardage situations more my sophomore year. And then it was really my junior and my senior years when I started scoring the touchdowns. At the time, the fullback position hadn't really even been scoring touchdowns like that. So my senior year was supposed to be a lot more touchdowns. People caught wind of the fullback dive and they were determined not to let me score from the 1 yard line. So we started putting up different things on that. But originally, they wanted me to break the all time touchdown record held by Dane Williams.
Okay,
Who
I remember doing research on Dane. Yes, yes,
and
indeed.
so it was just different eras, different games. Lonnie Pryor was a safety that got converted over. I had some really good running backs that I didn't want to take the ball away from. I blocked for Nick Maddox, Greg Jones, Lorenzo Booker, Leon Washington, Anton Smith on my way out.
Yeah.
Um, those guys needed to have the ball. When I came in with Leon, Lorenzo, and a guy named Thomas Hollywood Clayton, who ended up transferring to Kansas State. Got drafted to
Okay.
play years in the NFL as well.
Okay.
So one thing I've learned about life is when you find a role, you just kind of stick to the role and you go and you just hammer it out as much as you can. And I like violence and I like hitting people. So I just I owned that and I took it on and I try to do it to the best of my abilities.
Amen, bro. So it's interesting that you say that because I was looking at something where John Concack that used to play for the Atlanta Hawks, he was playing a pickup game with Wilt Chamberlain. And Wilt Chamberlain asked him what was he doing just going up and down the court like he was a guard. You know, Wilt Chamberlain told him, hey, look, why are you doing that? Just find your lane and stay in it. You know what I'm saying? So it seems like what you did right there.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, it was really one of those things where um, I got a chance to come in and I got a chance to be considered a household name, and people talked about me, and I had way more way more love than I really ever thought about. Even like to this day. I mean, it was almost 20 years ago. 18 seasons since the last time that I suited up in the Garden of Gold, and people still talk about me. I can go on Florida State's campus and walk. I can, like I was really that guy. I kind of get taken aback sometimes when I go with my son or with family members, and people are like, "Yo, you're big game. Yo, you're this, you're that," and I'm just like, I thought, I'm just a fullback in my eyes, but it's just again, and I'll go up there and I get a chance to talk to Barnum, William Floyd. I talk to
William
Lonnie,
Floyd,
those
yeah.
guys all the time, and just to even be mentioned in the same breath as some of those guys is just it's an honor in of itself.
Yeah, amen. I mean, there are a lot. There have been a lot of fullbacks there. I won't ask you this now, but I'll ask you this later. But I wanted to get your take on the greatest fullbacks of all time, and do you consider yourself in that category? Okay,
Um,
so yeah, so let's talk about this Miami game when I blame you for a lot of this. I blame you for this posterization, James. I'm just telling you, I blame you for this posterization, and I think you know what I'm getting at. Uh, was that uh, Vilma?
oh yeah.
You already know what I'm getting at. So I blame you for the posterization of Sean Taylor, rest his soul. I blame you for that, brother. Uh, that block that you laid on Vilma was legendary, and so on and so forth, and the rest is history. Explain that play to me. Explain that play to us.
Oh, that's a sprint draw. 44 was the play. Basically, we have a pass play where both the fullback and the running back go out into pass routes, but from that we fake the draw. We fake the. It's called sprint draw, but it's really it was our ISO.
Okay.
You're going downhill. I ISO the Mike linebacker, and then the tailback kind of goes off of that. I was a better fullback when Greg Jones was the running back because he was going to run over me and whoever else was in that hole. My position coach Billy Sexton used to say he's going to give you a Rydell animal, and so you came in, and I'll be honest with you, Vilma probably didn't want no smoke with Greg, so it was easier to take on the block from the sophomore fullback,
Yeah.
and it was just a good seal block. I mean, he picked a side. I took him where he wanted to go. Good block, and then all of a sudden it was really just. Then I saw it was one-on-one Greg Jones with Sean Taylor, and to Sean Taylor's credit, a lot of people would have kind of cowered and maybe kind of went to the side to make it an easier run over, but he stood his ground and he got ran over slow.
Yeah.
G could have easily made him miss and scored a touchdown, but G had a vendetta against him.
Yeah, man. That was I remember watching that game. I jumped right up out of my seat and just ran around the front yard like whoa. So but bro, I credit you for setting that play up because I mean you met Vilma right in the hole. Do y'all ever talk about that? What I mean, have you seen each other to talk about that or no?
Well, I got a chance to see Vilma in New Orleans.
Okay.
We a lot of times you talk about the things that guys got, you got them, and it's really just it becomes a good thing. It's more FSU fans talk about those things than others.
Mm-hmm.
Those were some good battles. I never got by Vilma. I've seen Vilma get a lot of people, but I never
Yeah.
got. DJ Williams got me one good time though. But
Okay.
I won a lot more battles than I lost. So I can only count on one hand how many I just lost. But Vilma was a hell of a competitor, very fast, very smart linebacker. And what was wild is to go from a 17-year-old watching the national championship in my mother's room at the time, thinking that I may go to the University of Miami, and I'm watching Vilma kill two players back to back from Nebraska. And
Wow.
fast forward 2 years later, I'm trying to go block this guy that I saw on national TV almost commit murder. So it's one of those
Yeah.
things where life comes at you really, really fast, and you got to be able to deal with it.
He was most certainly one of their best, the best that ever do it there at Miami. Um, what was I going to ask you about your relationship with Coach Bowden?
Mm.
Uh, so, what was his impact on your life, and also backtracking? Tell me why you chose Florida State over everybody else.
So much could be said about today's day and age, and a lot of people, they there's a lot of assumptions that get made about people. But the
Mhm.
one cool thing is that Coach Bowden never changed who he was to adapt or to fit in to who we were as young black men. And what I mean by
Mhm.
that is you'll see people, when you're on mixing other races and cultures, you'll see guys talk jive or try to use slang, sag the pants, just make it jokes. Bobby
Yeah.
was never changed. He was the old white man from Alabama that listened to that listened to the Southern Baptists, listened to Christian music, loved Jesus. He
Mhm.
was that through and through, regardless of what you were. And I could appreciate it. I absolutely love that man to death. And
Amen.
he in that I learned as an adult myself is to be unapologetically who I am. And if you're authentic, people will vibe with it. And if they don't, then that's not the people that you need to be with. And you want to have as many genuine interactions with excellent people so that you become excellent. And I think that's really what Bobby was trying to teach a lot of us through the game of football. Saved a lot of men's lives. I think without Bobby Bowden, my life would be completely different. People could say it's the talent that brought us together, and they wouldn't be lying. But at the same time, Bobby had to have saw something in me and others to be able to get us together and be able to do it. He's gone to projects, he's gone to trailer parks, he's gone to all these different things, and all he's going to do is be the same person that he is. Now, with that being said, a lot of people think because he's a Christian and because he's an all shucks type of guy that he was soft. And I
Mhm.
got news for you. It wasn't nothing soft about Bobby Bowden. Bobby Bowden was tough. And when you
Mhm.
think about guys like Chuck Amato, Mickey Andrews, all the different assistants that he had that are basically badasses, nobody is following a pump. So
Mhm.
when you really look at things and put things in perspective, you go from there. And I've had teammates who don't have the greatest things to say about him. I've had people, but majority of us have nothing but glowing things.
Mhm.
People wanted to get it political with stuff, and uh, I told people I was like, they were like, "Oh, he's voting for Trump. He doesn't like black people." I said, "You can say whatever you want to say. You cannot take away what that man did for me in my life and what he meant for me. I don't care who he votes for. He's an old white man from Alabama. You could have put a can of Jiffy peanut butter up against Hillary Clinton, and he was going to vote for the peanut butter. So I understand it. But when I know when I got my start in media, he was one of the first people that said, James, and this is no arrogance, but he understood who he was and how that would help me. He said, James, anytime you want to interview me, you just let me know, and and I'll do it for you. I'll make time. Um, that's a guy again. I'm just a full. You know how many black number 36s Bobby Bowden has seen over the course of his coaching career. For
I'm
him to
sure
take
it's a lot.
time for me to like do those things, that's saying a lot. And I mean, again, I scored 10 touchdowns. He called the touchdown. He's the one who called fullback dive. It was his play. So that's 10 times that he trusted me to be able to do something that could change the course of the game.
That's
He didn't have to do that. He did. He could have picked anybody else. And again, it was my talent, but it was his vision and his things to be able to see a guy like me from out of a little neighborhood in Tallahassee called Rockbrook to be able to do some big things. And I appreciate it. I miss him every day. I had almost died of COVID
wow.
when I had just got out of the hospital, when he went in the hospital, and I got the call and the text messages, and you know, it was a tear rolled down my face. And this is another, my bad, last thing just to talk about it.
Yeah.
My oldest son doesn't know anything. Had never got a chance to meet Bobby. Never, but knew of his importance just by things. And like he would say stuff like, I'm gonna play for Coach Bowden too. And I'd be like, man, I don't really know if that's gonna happen, son. If by the time you're old enough and Bobby's still here, then that means the zombie apocalypse has happened, and we've all figured out how to be better. But yeah, Bobby, to be able, everybody, that's the other cool thing is like everywhere I go, hey, what year did you play for Florida State? Did you play for Bobby or Jimbo? Oh, what was Bobby like? And it's cool to be able to have had this experience that everybody wants to talk about and everybody kind of knows that was special. So,
amen. So, quick story about Coach Bowden. I was in foster care, and I grew up not too far from you guys by Tallahassee, in Live Oak, Swanee, at the Florida Sheriff's Boys Ranch. So I grew up there, and I would always write him. I think I was somewhere between 12 and 15 years old, and I would always write him. And for the life of me, I didn't understand why he would write me back. When I told him what my situation was, and I told him I wanted to come play at Florida State when I got old enough, and he said, just keep your dreams alive, son. He always call you son at the end of the letters. Just keep your dreams alive, son, and you'll get where you want to be. He didn't ever say I will go sign you, but he always wrote me back, and there was times he would write me before I would write him back. And that's what I remember about Coach Bowden. I mean, like you said, there are a lot of things that they said he was voting for Trump or whatever, but to me, that's my Coach Bowden moment, and I will always love him. One of the three greatest men to ever walk this earth is Coach Bowden, my grandfather, and whoever else that they decide. Yeah. So, so tell me, you played with Chris Ricks. You played with Chris Ricks. If we had PK on a few maybe a week ago, we had PK on, and we were talking about the play where PK caught the touchdown against Florida, and he told us that how it went, and everybody used to blame Chris for just bad play. But I never saw it that way because I seen Chris being so athletic and so great that I guess other people didn't see what you seen. So tell me what makes Chris Ricks an anomaly versus a problem, because a lot of people seen him as a problem, but I never did.
Well, Chris was ahead of his time. And Chris we were also the beginning of the 24-hour news cycle. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of things that he did that were just stupid college kid mistakes that got amplified into something that was a little bit more when you're in a glass bowl program. People got to remember, Florida State, technically, they went to 4 national championships in 5 years. Really, if you think about it, most of the 90s, Florida State was playing in a game that would be considered the national championship game.
Right.
Then you come to the 2000s. You started off with that and you lose, and then Chris Ricks is the quarterback. But people forget the guy who was supposed to start before him got kicked off, and then I forgot that he ended up getting drafted first overall pick from with the Minnesota Twins. Should have been the guy that would have come in and also been able to start. So Chris got thrown and thrust into a position that he wasn't necessarily prepared to be in, and they didn't really know how to utilize an athletic quarterback. And he's a quarterback. Your quarterbacks are cocky. Mix in the fact that he was from California, and to Florida guys, Californians are weird. Until you've been around them, you don't know. Yeah. But I'll say this: having been in the huddle, I've seen times when Chris threw an interception and they told him, you're going to throw it to Crefonzo Thorpe. You're going to throw it there or what? And he threw it there, and Crow was like triple covered, and an interception happened. Should he have varied? Probably. But Chris was one of those guys that really tried to do everything that the coaches told him to do, and he believed in everything. And I think if Jeff Bowden would have been a little bit more innovative, I think he would have been able to be a little bit better. But with all that being said, when we look at the records that Jordan Travis right now is currently getting ready to break, it's like right now is Jameis Winston, but there's an interesting name in there, and it's Chris Ricks.
Yeah.
Chris Ricks has a lot of records, or is in the top 5 of a lot of categories, wins included, at Florida State. And during my time, the 3 years that he was the starter when I was there, if you look at 03 and 04, in 2003, we're a bad game against Clemson away from playing in the national championship.
Right.
We only lost to 2 teams that year. We lost to Miami twice and Clemson once, even playing Miami in the pouring down rain.
Right.
There were some things that happened in that game that probably went Miami's way as far as calls, but I'm not going to complain about it. But just think about how close Chris Ricks was to playing in a national championship. You go into 04, we lost to Maryland on the road, a missed kick. We make that. We play Florida in a completely different scenario, in a completely different situation. We beat Maryland and Clemson. Excuse me, we beat Maryland and then we beat Florida. Florida State's in the national championship. You're in back-to-back national championships. And I think, guys forget that because of who we follow. We follow Chris Winkie. He wanted to wear 16, and he was going to wear it after Chris Winkie. So he's signing things Chris Ricks 16. Winkie doesn't like that when he's doing that. He has the speeding tickets. He has the parking in the handicap spot. He breaks the Deion Sanders rule at the time. But what people don't realize is his father was an alcoholic, and he left California to follow him. And he was up all night because his father got kicked out of the place that he was at. That's why he missed his final. And I'm like, what people don't realize is that a lot of us, everybody has a story, but a lot of us are dealing with real issues at really, really young ages that don't know how to even deal with ourselves yet. So Chris, but I'll tell this, Chris is a phenomenal man. Chris is the type of guy that can take the governor and the homeless man off the street, put them in the same room, and make them both feel like they're on top of the world. Bobby had a very similar demeanor to him like that, but I think a lot of people one of the questions I always get was Chris Ricks a dick, and I'm like, no, Chris was actually a really good guy. I will say this though, it was a terrible decision. It just worked to throw the PK. Like, it was not wise. We literally just got the first down. We did not need to go do that.
Yeah.
And it just so, like I said, it just so happened to work, and I'm glad it did. And I'm glad PK caught it, and then they tried it. PK caught it. They were so mad that they sicked the dog on PK. If you go look at
that's we talked about that.
Yeah,
he was saying he was hoping the dog would bite him so he could get paid off the dog.
That dog was ready, man.
Yeah, I seen that, man. Yeah, so on that 4th and 14, the Dominic Robinson, Chris was making some excellent throws in that, to say the least. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, you were there, so I mean, do you think? I know you said some of the plays he did you were uncalled for, like the long bomb, the PK. But anything after that, what did you see that he did wrong?
I mean, in the game, he made some wild when he's using his legs. I mean, trying to run over Sean Taylor. That's a very stupid decision. I wouldn't try to do that. Just some of the things, throwing guys. Like, I think a lot of quarterbacks sometimes get too arrogant. I mean, he threw PK in the concussion protocol a few times, like in some of those games. But like I said, his cockiness and his bravado. But that's what got him to the position in which he was in. But in that Florida game, man, he was cooking. I mean, he was feeling himself. So and I always told him on that 4th and 14, man, I was open. Like, I was more open than D-Rob, so I would have got the first down, man. He could have.
So I seen that play. Was that you headed to the flats?
Yep,
Yeah,
both me and
okay, I
Leon.
seen that play.
Yeah,
Okay, I remember seeing that play. You were open. Uh, was it Leon Washington on the field with you then?
yep, me and
Yep,
Leon were on the field.
yep, yep. So I remember watching that play. Uh, bro, I was so excited about that game. I'll be here a month talking to you about that, James. So y'all win 3 ACC championships in your tenure there. I mean, my other question is, can Florida State go back to being the dominant the dominant factor they were in the 90s and put a stranglehold back on the ACC, or do you see them leaving for another conference?
Well, I do see Florida State potentially leaving for another conference, and
Mm,
the reality of the situation is you can't give $50 million a bonus or advantage a year to your main rival, and
mhm,
that's what the TV deals in the SEC and the Big Ten are just incredible and just too incredible. Like for them to stay in the ACC unless some very dramatic things happen, like ACC is trying to do some stuff with CW. They're trying to do some other different, trying to bring Stanford, SMU. Well, they're bringing Stanford, SMU, and Cal in, but those things don't really help the overall university from an athletic standpoint. So, but either way, I see wherever Florida State goes, there will be a viable entity. What people have to realize, though, is college football, the way we've known and loved it, is shifting. With the playoff system, it's going to go to where it's nice to win your conference, um, but the most important thing is to get to the playoff. It's kind of like the NFL. Like NFL is nice to win your conference, but the most important thing is to win your division or get to the wild card. Because once you're in the playoff, you have a shot to go win the Super Bowl. And the goal is to have a shot to win the national championship. So you could be a 2-loss, 3-loss team potentially and find yourself in the top 12 in the nation. So that's really where a lot of this stuff is going to go towards. And you're not going to see as many undefeated teams as you used to see because teams are going to go beat each other up in conference. So I
okay.
do think Florida State is recruiting in a manner. They use the transfer portal in a manner to where they'll be dominant for the next 3 to 5 years, and it really just all depends on how they recruit and how well those guys buy into the system.
Yeah, man. So, James, do you think I get this whenever I go out of town to places, and I brag I'm a Florida State to my heart. I'm a Florida State guy to my heart. So, I mean, over the years, do you think we as a fan base, and you being a former, well, I won't say former, I'll say forever Seminole, because I don't, you're former nothing if you played there. So, do you think we are a spoiled fan base and expect to like those 14-year of dominances from our from our team, or what? What do you? I mean, are we asking too much in this era from versus the late '80s, early '90s? Are we asking too
I mean,
much?
we're an extremely spoiled fan base. I mean, and that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
To go 40 years without having a losing season, 36
Hmm.
straight bowl games,
Hmm.
um, you know, that's a level of dominance that very few like blue bloods have seen. I've told people like I've gone my entire adult life and I've only had this last few years has been the worst, some of the worst football that I've seen in Florida State history. Very few people can say that. But even then, when you step back out of it and you look at, we've gone to a bowl game 3 out of the 5 years
Right.
in the downtime. So if that's your bad time, really 2 years of not making a bowl game, then it's people who will pray for this. So yeah, we are a spoiled fan base. And I also think it's just the nature of the culture. Everybody believes that they should win the national championship, and really only one team wins that. The goal, it used to be going to a bowl game, going to winning your conference was admirable. Now it's if you
Hmm.
miss it, then it's like, oh my God, you suck. But I'm like, do you? Your whole season is down the drain because you lost 1 or 2 games? Like, no. This is a very violent game. I think guys should be rewarded for having some semblance of success, and people who have more success should be rewarded more greatly. But I think our fan base has to learn to ride out with what we have and stop comparing ourselves to everybody else because everybody else compares themselves to us.
Right. So true. So I've watched, just like you said, there is a shift. Do you think is is it better for college football, or is it worse?
I think it's
Is it
better.
okay?
I think it just all depends on how you look at it. I think to think your season is over after 2 losses is asinine.
Hmm.
Like it gives you something to continue to play for. And I think it's it's about whose injuries are gonna hold up. It's about matchups, it's about things like that. So I I just love football. And I think when people take a
Yeah.
step back and just think about what the game is and what the game means to them, then they'll enjoy it a little bit more. So I hate to do this, but I only probably got like 10 more minutes
Okay,
before I
that
get
sounds good, bro. We're just happy to have you, man. Just
okay.
yeah. So some of the blue bloods, and I'll let you go and get you out of here. Some of the blue bloods, like Alabama, what do you see? I mean, I don't want to ask you about the records. How they look shaky right now, James. They look shaky. What do you think their record will be at the end of the year? And I mean, do you think Nick Saban's time has passed? Because I certainly don't, because he can hire coaches and get coaches in there. But what do you think about the the top five as it stands right now?
I think Michigan's really good, Ohio State's good. I think Michigan doesn't have great quarterback play, which is going to come to bite them in the butt when
Mm-hmm.
they play Ohio State, but I still think that they're a really good team. Georgia, I think Georgia's actually the ceiling's higher with Carson than it was with Stetson.
Yeah,
They just have to learn to win with Carson and win in spite of what their OC is doing. USC is going to put up points, but their defense is going to be the Achilles heel to them. And again, I think Florida State has yet to show what they can do when all three phases are operating. But to what you were saying about Bama, and Texas, I believe would be in there
yeah.
as well. But I think Texas is good, but I think Texas just caught Bama at a great time. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
they go undefeated on the season, but if they did, that would be great for college football. But as far as Saban goes, Saban is still Saban. There's still tons of talent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what Saban has been able to do over the last decade or more is practically impossible because the amount of turnover that he's had with his coaching staff should have caused him to fail a long, long time ago. But I
Yeah,
think he's he is the ultimate prepared coach, and I think he will. I think he's still. I think him and his name alone is worth 10 wins.
yeah.
I don't think he's had a 9-win season since he's been there.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I do believe he makes the necessary changes in the offseason, or he gives his guys more leeway to be able to do what they need to do. They've got a top quarterback in this recruiting class coming in. So I think they've got a kid that I helped coach at with a high school. He's committed for the class of 2025 for right now, and Jamie French. But
Okay.
I think Saban is Saban until proven otherwise. As long as he's around, he's going to be a threat. But the SEC West is probably the most competitive conference in football. Not the SEC, the SEC West with LSU, Auburn getting Hugh Freeze, who was doing very well when cheating was illegal. And now that you can cheat legally, I can fully expect him to do well at Auburn. Lane Kiffin with Ole Miss, and just Arkansas hanging around, and Texas A&M with Jimbo has enough talent to be dangerous every year. So, it's a tough road to hoe.
Yeah. Uh, and I'll get you out of here with this, man. Your thoughts on the way Jimbo left. I know it's throwback, but your thoughts on the way he left FSU. Do
You
you
know,
still?
I think it's similar to how Deion left Jackson State, and what
Mhm.
I mean by that is that um, Jimbo has 75 million reasons to leave.
Mhm.
Florida State wasn't going to pay him 7.5 million guaranteed over 10 years. Florida State did not even support his foundation for his son. So but Texas A&M not only would support his foundation, but they were one of the leaders in research for the disease that his son had. It was just
Wow.
an overall good fit. He just got through the divorce, and it was very public in that local area. Nobody would have faulted him for just wanting a change of scenery, but it's the manner in which he left and
Yeah.
tearing down the city and tearing down all the facilities are in that while you're losing.
Yeah.
And you're losing to schools that don't even have the facilities that you have.
Right.
And it was really just casting the blame on everything but who the blame really needed to be casted on, which was himself. And why I say Dion is similar is like Dion had we get it. Like I don't believe for 1 second that God told him to go to Jackson, Mississippi, as much as Jackson State gave him his opportunity to be a head coach, and he wanted to be a head coach. So God bless. Your time ran out for what you said, and you were able to get the job in what you wanted, and that's fine. But when you start talking about robberies and you start talking about people, they cheated you out of your money, you weren't forward thinking. I just think him and Jimbo, and this is where the comparison comes, just weren't grateful enough to the people who put them in position to be able to change their lives fiscally. And I think you
Right.
could have left it a better place
I
than
agree.
what you found it. And instead, more Jimbo than Dion on this one.
Yeah.
Jimbo really left a dumpster fire because Jimbo slept while Florida State was ranked, I believe, 70th in recruiting when Willie Tiger came in there to bring them all the way to top 10 to a number 11 finish, if I remember correctly. So Willie was doomed to fail before he even started because of the hole that Jimbo left him. And I think I just think it's a way you leave. And now Jimbo's only national championship, he'll never be able to really celebrate in peace because of the way that he left. And had he just left, he would have been welcomed back. I mean, even Urban Meyer is welcome back to Florida.
That's insane. That's insane. With all that being said, wow. Yeah, that's insane. But yeah, man, want to thank you for stopping by, man. Can we have you back sometime?
Yeah, no doubt, man. I go where I'm asked.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you, man. And we actually send the elevator back down, man. We need some more of you guys to come tell your stories over here, man.
I think what a lot of people really fail to realize is we're just regular men, especially at this point. A lot of us are extremely approachable. We're family men. If we have time, there's not very few things that we're going to do if approach respectfully and talk to. I mean, a lot of my teammates are really, really good guys. A lot of former players are really, really good guys, and we have a tremendous fan base that that needs to hear the real. Too many guys are getting paid too much money to talk about things that they have very little idea about.
I totally agree.
And as I quote one of my favorite rappers is Jay-Z, a lot of people criticize me in message boards about stuff, and I always say to the critics to tell you I don't get it. Everybody can tell you how to do it. They never did it.
The word. Now he spit a bar then.
And but I think a lot of the guys everybody that I know are genuine. Most of them are genuinely good guys and are only assholes when somebody approaches them with that energy. So I think if you just reach out to guys, man, just tell them who all did it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when you interview guys and you talk to them, everybody has different perspectives of different things. I love PK to death. A lot of the fan base doesn't like PK very much, but I always tell people two people can experience two different things in two different ways. I wasn't in the room. I have an idea. I have my opinions about what happened with PK and Coach Bowden, but I wasn't there. The only people in that room were those guys. And, and he spoke his truth, and that's how he feels, and that's how he feels. That's not how I feel, but that's how my guy feels. And like I said, the one thing we can never take away, no matter what, is the way that we all felt when PK caught that ball in that end zone against Florida in the comeback. So you can hate him all you want, but you can't take back that memory. To be a little crass,
that's what he said.
To be a little crass, as I've told people, I tell my exes sometimes, you can hate me all you want, but you can take back all the things you gave me or whatever, but you can't take back us having sex. So that's not good. You can't erase that. So like that happens. So
Dude.
you know, so those are, you know, but that's just stuff that, you know, like I always tell people, the feeling that you got with your dad or whatever when he hugged you, one of the few times he hugged you after I scored that touchdown against Miami,
I remember that.
you can't unforget that moment. And so
That's
no matter
right.
how much you can hate the man, but you can't erase the moment. So I always tell people, you know, listen, PK is my teammate. So I love PK. Him and Lawrence Sam was in my same class. So I love those guys.
Yeah, that's his brother. Yeah, he was telling us about it. Is the and I'll let you go. Is that the greatest one? Is that the greatest individual play in Florida State history, or no?
PK's touchdown?
Yeah.
Oh no. That's not even the greatest touchdown I've seen when I was playing. Greg Jones running over all of Clemson's defense in 2003. Actually, yeah, that wasn't even 2002, excuse me,
Yeah.
on a Thursday in Doak Campbell Stadium. That was a hell of a touchdown. But there was a lot of moments. It's hard to be a tough, like what I was telling somebody today. You can't name, if you name a top 10 list, any position at Florida State, you're gonna have arguments.
Yeah, I won't even try it, but
and when you name it, what's crazy is you're going to name 10 individuals and you're going to forget somebody, and that person that you forgot is going to be cold. Even at quarterback, like people like Deion Sanders and Danny Cannell were going at each other, right? And everybody was talking about, you know, show him this. And I'm like, well, Danny can show Deion a national championship and wins against Miami. But bigger than that, Danny finished, I believe, 4th in the Heisman Trophy voting.
Yeah.
People forget that Danny Cannell, it didn't work in the NFL. He was cold in college.
Yeah.
Dad Busby was cold. Like it's again, like I said, man, I'm a historian with Florida State. So
am I. That I remember Casey Weldon being second in the Heisman Trophy race. So I remember that.
Again, just people. It's if you go through the who's list, it's crazy who you'll see. Like Dexter Carter could arguably not be a top 10 running back at Florida State, but he's one of the 4 running backs we had drafted in the first round. We've only had 4.
When I was a kid, I didn't mean to cut you off, but when I was a kid, I used to pretend I was Dexter Carter and Amp Lee playing football. Those are my guys. Dexter even helped me do a book report or something a few years back, and it was all about you guys' community and chemistry at Florida State and Coach Bowden and all of you guys. So
you just brought up Amp Lee, and a lot of people, again, man, we can go on and on. There's some cats that come through those halls, man. But yeah, man, I appreciate you though.
Man, thank you, bro. And we would love to have you back, bro. Thank you for joining us, man.
No doubt.
All right, bro. Sorry, my co-host didn't make it tonight. He's going through something with his mother. We're gonna wish him the best, and just keep praying. Keep my co-host Jody in your prayers. Want to thank our special guest for stopping by and blessing us with some Florida State history and some talk about the good old days and all of that. Until next time, you can find us on Spotify. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on all streaming platforms now. So give me a minute and I'll get this episode up. All Pro.